You're listening to The Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
In the NBA playoffs, we had 4 series openers, including both number 1 seeds in action. In the East, the top seed, the Celtics, took care of the Heat 114-94. Boston hit 22 3-pointers in the win. They were led by Jason Tatum's triple-double, 22 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Oklahoma City, top seed in the West, had a tougher time against the Pelicans, but in the end, the Thunder get a 94-92 win in a game that had 20 lead changes. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 28 points in the win for the Thunder. Bucks didn't have star Giannis Antetokounmpo, still beat the Pacers 109-94. Damian Lillard led Milwaukee with 35 points all in the first half. Clippers beat the Mavericks 109-97. Kawhi Leonard did not play for LA, but James Harden had 28 points and Ivica Zubac's 20 points, 15 rebounds for the Clippers. NHL playoffs, 4 series openers. Rangers beat the Capitals 4-1. Panthers get by the Lightning 3-2. Jets outscore the Avalanche 7-6, and the Canucks beat the Predators 4-2.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick you, and our running back coach didn't take the biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. The Alabama One hotline is open for business. Glad that you've chosen to get up and at it with us this morning. We got a great show lined up for you as we move things forward. The playbook for today is a Manic Monday. Of course, we'll add Kennington Smith to the third to the conversation. Here in a little bit, we have transfer news on both the hardwood and the court. We have a SWOT analysis. We'll begin that process. We can talk to NFL draft. We can talk about those things. We can even talk about Talladega, and Talladega 500. Interesting, pictures coming out of there. So, lots of things we can get to. We can talk a little baseball. The phone lines are open for you to call us up and tell us what's on your mind. Remember, it's the sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team, and we love to hear from you to start things off this morning. So thanks so much for being with us. Remember that this is a day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. I guess one of the fun stories, it seems like the Bama guys might be, this is not to take a shot or anything like that, but looks like the Bama guys may be having a little bit of fun. They might just be having a little bit of fun out there in the rest of the world. As whether you've seen it or not, there's a picture of Jalen Milroe with the legendary Michael Jordan, JM and MJ hanging out at the Talladega 500. I'm not sure which one's more shocking, seeing them at Talladega or seeing them together. But them two plus Devontae Smith, Jalen Milroe, Malachi Moore, Jahad Campbell, and a few other guys were seen at Talladega. And the part that's funny to me, have you seen the picture yet?
Yeah.
My question to you guys, which one is trying to hide their face the most? Is it Jordan with a hat and shades on, or Miro with hat, shades, and hoodie? So I'm like, Jalen, you're standing beside Jordan, arguably the GOAT, based on which era you come from and what's your opinion. Many believe it is Jordan. Some make arguments for others. But that was the first thing that stood out to me on the picture, X, was which one of these guys do you think, is trying to hide themselves or disguise the most? So, but anyway, any thoughts on those guys? But does it seem like the spirit of the program, they seem to be having a lot of fun? I mean, and that's going to be a good thing if that's the case.
Yeah, man, it was pretty cool to see all those guys having fun and get in a picture with one of the greatest basketball players, the greatest athletes, period, of all time is a pretty cool thing. So I know those guys had a blast this weekend.
Now, do you remember getting to go up and see Jordan play?
I remember going to a Barons game when I was really young, but not realizing who that it was Jordan was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were one of the ones that we went up to see him up at, when he was with the Barons. So it was pretty cool, pretty fun experience. He was humbled a little bit in that, baseball thing. And so, of course, what Jordan is, Jed Cohen said, Jordan is a co-owner of a NASCAR team. Jordan is co-owner of everything. So, but yeah, I mean, let's see what else, George Teasley said, checking in from Tallahassee. For FSU. Oh, yeah, this weekend, George sent me, George was, I guess he was on his, what do they call it when you're trolling, other teams? So he sent me like 4 articles. The first one showed, and this is for Pat, showed that Alabama's, reported attendance was up from 53,000 to almost 73,000, 72,000 and some change. So, up almost 20,000 over last year, which showed a trend in the spring game, which doesn't mean a whole lot going down, in Alabama, spring game. So it was up. So that was good. But then he showed Auburn at 33,000, I think, or something like that. And then he sent another one that showed Georgia reporting 50,000, which that's pretty good considering half their stadium was closed, not half, but they're doing some renovations there. And then it showed Florida State that had like, around 18,000. He said, in his thing it says 18, in the chat today it says 17,000. So,
did you see how few were at Miami?
I did not see it.
1,000. 1,000.
No way.
Yep. They didn't even have theirs, like, at the stadium. They had theirs. I couldn't tell where it was, but if you go look, like, it looks like a practice field somewhere.
Wow. Was that on purpose? I mean,
I don't know.
You have to do that on purpose. I hadn't asked you, what do you think about what Lane Kiffin did? I mean, that was weird.
Weirdest spring game day I've ever seen.
But I guess in some ways, let me ask you this. Which one is more likely? It's a good question. It's a manic Monday, so we'll get right off into the manic part of it. Is there more likely to be more of those types of 8A games moving forward than what we've traditionally known?
I don't think so. I mean, that's the first time I've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Justin? Is Lane Kiffin is it gonna become all about celebrating with your team, getting to meet your team, etc., versus another high profile scrimmage? Yeah, that's why I asked that question. It seems crazy to think, but who would have ever thought we would get to a point that we're at right now with the portal the way it is, and the NCAA saying you can transfer multiple times. And Jed Cohn made a statement, which I guess in some way he said like midnight madness in basketball. Except for this, just instead of at the beginning, it's at the end of the season. So Curtis Moore II said, "Man, I hope not Lane Kiffin spring game way." But you really think about it, Ax. It's really a catch-22. Do the coaches really learn anything in the spring game? Not really. You may see a couple more scrimmages in the thing, and then, instead of 14 practices, 11, in those first 14 practices, you may have, do you even have to count that as a practice? Is that even counted as a practice? If you do the 7-on-7, you could do, don't be surprised if it doesn't become one of those Under Armour type of showcases. How many people right now, X, would pay to go see, if they were to take the top I shouldn't give out this idea because we'll probably one at Bryant-Denny soon, or some stadium. Take those recruiting days that they have in Atlanta. If they were to open it up, how many people out there follow recruiting would show up? It'd be more than showed up at Miami's game.
Yeah.
And so if you were to take Alabama and you were to have the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen doing drills and kind of a combine type of environment, you could probably make it a little more athletic related, but then have all of this stuff. Think about how many people show up for signing day, just a regular signing day. It's a thought, and I'm not sure that Alabama wouldn't be one of those that would have some variation of it. I don't know that. I don't know how Kalen does things. I know how he did this year. It'll be interesting to see what he does for next year. But anyway, we got a couple other things we'll get to. Of course, Alabama getting some news, X, in the transfer portal, coming in on both sides. About as good a news as you could get over a weekend. Alabama baseball, making another, statement, even though, they got a lot of reds, meaning losses, man. They've got some really big wins in the last few weeks. So we'll continue to look at that. We'll add Kenneth Smith III to the conversation, and we'll add you to the conversation on this Manic Monday. A-Day crowds, George Teasley getting a big kick out of it. Jalen Milroe and crew hanging out with MJ and crew, literally the pit crew over at Talladega. Austin Dillon, now the favorite NASCAR driver of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Better be careful saying that here in Tuscaloosa or in Alabama. But we'll keep it rolling. You can join the conversation 205-342-9904.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. The sun is starting to peak up across a very quiet and uneventful drive through the T-Town region this morning, traveling along 2059 from Foster's to Cottondale. No big problems waiting for you there. McFarland Boulevard is moving nice if you're coming down from Coker.
So great ideas can happen right now. Find out how to bring your ideas to life at Dell.com. Welcome to Now.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sunshine in full supply today. The high 68. Tonight fair with the low at 43. The weather stays dry tomorrow and Wednesday. Partly to mostly sunny both days with a warming trend. The high tomorrow 75. The high Wednesday 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 40 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show. Your team. The Martin Houston Show. On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on Tide 100.9, 12:30 a.m. WTBC. It's a manic Monday. We're going to add Kenneth Smith III to the conversation just a moment. Invite you to get in on the conversation as well, 205-342-9904. If you have a question for Kennington, you can just add it in the live stream, or you can call us on the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Excuse me. Welcome into the program. Good morning, Kennington. How you doing, sir? All right.
Hello?
Yeah, I got you. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, sir. Got you. All right. Well, Kennington, kind of a crazy weekend, all sports considered, couple different things from baseball to, I don't know what, I didn't see anything regarding softball this weekend, but George Teasy said softball, they didn't not covering the base or something. So, and Dobby must have missed the out. But anyway, basketball, football news, talked a little bit about Jalen Murrow and Michael Jordan hanging out at the Motor Speedway. The big question I have for you, just kind of as a observation, Kennington, do the guys, this is you're coming up on your first full year. So in a short period of time, you have comparison of what it was like when you got here versus what it feels like now. Do the guys seem to be just a lot looser, enjoying themselves a lot more, maybe having a little bit more fun than you would say they were this time last year potentially?
Yeah, I would say that that's the accurate assessment. I was talking to Deontay Lawson after A-Day, and he was asked about just kind of comparing, in a way, kind of playing under Saban and playing under Kalen DeBoer. And he said, with Saban, a lot of it was, always focused on being business. And with DeBoer, they feel like they can, be themselves a little bit more on and off the field. They feel like they can be a little bit more loose. Malachi Moore said under Saban, the atmosphere was a little bit more militant. Which is no knock to Saban, obviously, because his way works better than anybody in history. But under DeBoer, it's just a lot more free. It's a lot more loose. And players seem to be enjoying themselves. So, one is not better or worse, but it definitely is different. And you can tell that the players are enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and the big question you always, when you go from both ways, when you go from discipline to more relaxed, will the guy still put in the work? Or when you go from relaxed to more militant, will the guys rebel and not do it and you won't get their best? And like you said, it's not that either one is better or worse, we know that one has worked traditionally well here at Alabama the last 17 years. Now the big question is, this is all fun and everything, but ultimately, as Coach Stallings say, the fun's in the winning. And so if they don't win, then this fun won't matter. But in your opinion at this point, do you feel like the guys are still, even though they're having fun and it's relaxed and the coaches seem to be talking to them on a, just allowing them to be college students as well, do you feel like these guys are putting in the work that is going to be required for them to remain at the level they've been at?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think there really is anything that I've gleaned that would say otherwise. I think you look at A-Day, and I think you can see the progress being made at certain positions. I think you saw Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson take a step forward. You saw the running back room take a step forward. Somebody like Elijah Pritchett on the offensive line, you see the improvements that he's made from last year. So just in those, few examples, I think you have seen the players putting in the work. And I think what's happening as far as the coach-player relationship is resonating when you consider the fact that there hasn't been a scholarship player that's entered the portal yet. That's a pretty significant development, I would say. We're almost a week into this and a player hasn't left the program. It means that the players are enjoying it. And I feel like from a development standpoint, they feel like they trust the coaches to get them to where they need to be, because there's, obviously, sharks circling the roster. There's going to be tampering and those types of things. And there's going to be schools that are going to try to pull players away from the roster, but it hasn't been successful to this point. So I think, just kind of those, few anecdotes, you can see that there is a certain level of buy-in from the players to the coaches out of spring practice.
Yeah, and here's the funny part is everybody acts like there's one way to win. And so Saban's way. The guy who nobody wanted, and this is why they didn't want him. People can say what they want. Not nobody. A lot of people didn't want Dabo because he was the antithesis to Saban, meaning his program was viewed as having fun and guys lagging and all those different things. But he was there four times and won two and could have won 3 or 4 national championships by the age of 50 had there not been a Saban in the game at Clemson, which I always tell people, Dabo got Clemson to a place that Saban never could get Michigan State. You see what I'm saying? Like Clemson in the ACC was Michigan State when at the time that because there's only been 2 teams in the Big Ten. It's been Ohio State and Michigan, So, and he couldn't get in there. You can respond to that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like you said, there are multiple ways to win. You can even look at, drawing a parallel to DeBoer and kind of what you're alluding to with maybe more being of a player's coach approach and the players having more fun. You look at what Washington's done. DeBoer's only been an FBS coach for a handful of years. And if you take out the coaches who have won national championships that are active, outside of Ryan Day, who's been coaching longer and has racked up more conference championships, there really isn't a coach out there that's done more than DeBoer in his 2 or 3 years at the FBS level. So obviously his method is working at a really high clip. And I think it'll be really just interesting to see how that method plays out at Alabama, where obviously the scrutiny is going to be much higher than anything that he's experienced to this point.
Yeah, being a former player, I can tell you, it would be fun to have fun while you're having fun, if that makes sense. The fun is in the winning. I get that, and I agree with that sentiment. But I just think that it's a new era, and if you start thinking about it, as dominant as we have been, We have one title in the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever. It was something that dawned on me as I was watching the guys unload off the bus. I realized that the majority of those guys, and it was the first time a fourth-year guy was walking back into that building without a ring. And so, things were changing. And of course, going 4 years out winning a national title is not a bad thing. It's just not the standard at Alabama. But it dawned on me, wow, the fourth year guys who are the seniors on this class, they're the fourth year. This is the first time since 2007 or 8, 9 that the fourth year guys, scholarship guys walking back into the building didn't have a national championship ring. That's crazy to try to live up to that standard. Let's get to Pat. Pat, you're in with Mark.
SEC championship rings.
Huh?
They do have the SEC championship rings.
I'm just saying that my point.
I get it.
My point I'm making is that's a ridiculous standard to try to live up to. But the problem, X, is I'm just trying to point out that we're not as dominant in the last 6 years as we think we have been on the national. We've only got one. We've gotten to that level in 2020. 2 years before that, 3 years since that. So one in the last 6 years, which is probably more realistic for most great programs. For us, it seems bad. And so if the board were to win one title every 6 years, that wouldn't be a bad performance. It's just he's coming behind the GOAT. So that was my point. Let's get to Pat. Pat, you're in. Actually, so I don't have to cut you short, Pat, we're going to go ahead and go to break here. We'll come back on the other side, and bring Pat into the conversation. We'd love to invite you to get in on the conversation, with Xavier in Kennington. You can bring your questions, your thoughts, your comments, and your
off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
This report is sponsored by Think It Up.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Max Sports. We want to thank the good folks over at Billy's Cooking Restaurant. Find them on Facebook at Billy's Cooking LLC, 632-8617, 205-632-8617 for call-in pickup orders, or you can call DoorDash for delivery. It's Billy's Cooking Restaurant. Wing Wednesday, Fish Friday, and Soul Food Sunday. Check them out on Facebook at Billy's Cooking LLC. All right. We'll pick back up with that question we had. The conversation we were in, talking about came to board and, kind of whether or not his style will work. And, if not, why wouldn't it work? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're spoiled as Alabama fans, and that's okay. I'm okay with us being spoiled. It's been a great run. But we got Pat who wants to jump in on that conversation. Pat, you're in with Martin, Xavier, and Kennington, the Smith III of the Athletic. What's on your mind, sir?
Martin, you forgot to tell them that if you need a cake for a 5-star meal, buy the slice or a whole cake. Billy can provide that for you too. That his cakes are outstanding, Martin Houston.
Yes,
they really are. And anyway, hey, let's talk about each of these kids need guidance, Martin. That some of these kids haven't had a father figure in their life, and it's just and that's not either. That's just the way things are today. And without this kind of guidance, some of these kids, when you see it talking about loose, some of these kids could become a loose cannon. Can we say Jimmy Johns, and had Jimmy Johns been in this new system today, what kind of marketing could Jimmy Johns have had with Jimmy Johns? He could have been the sandwich man.
Who did Jimmy Johns play for? What coaches?
Yeah, Jimmy Johns played for Tuscaloosa, played in Tuscaloosa.
No. Which coach did he play for?
Hey, one that is a strict disciplinarian. I'm just saying that was.
I guess my question is, what are you saying? You said they need father figures. Are you saying Kalen DeBoer and his style is not producing father figures, or you saying that Saban's style produces father figures? I'm trying to figure out what angle what do you mean by they need father figures?
Yeah,
and,
well, at least
this staff doesn't have it.
Playing loose, you got to have discipline. These kids need the structure. They need being told when to do, where to do, and how to do. That's worked all down through the years, and it will continue to work. And we can't get too loose.
I guess my question is, are you saying that the board doesn't have that based on what you've seen? Or that you're concerned?
School's out. Y'all talking about loose and having fun. Hey, I'm saying that winning national titles is having fun. Lots of fun to me.
But Pat, I guess Kennedy, you know his point. I'm trying to get you to say, instead of hitting around to it, Pat, I'm trying to get you to say, what are you trying to say? Because it sounds to me like if you want to take it, I'm going to say that you're saying that there's no discipline under this system. And that's what your concern is. Because I said that they're having fun and they seem to be enjoying themselves. It seems to me, Pat, that you're saying that we can't win with that because they don't have discipline.
Under this system, and you see what he did. He didn't get there in the end. He didn't finish. He did not finish against Michigan.
He got further than Saban did last year.
At Washington, a team that 2 years before was 4-8, and in 2 years he went 11-2, and then 14-1, and so this is a coach in 2 years with lesser talent that took a team to the national championship game while we were sitting at home.
Hey, and here's what I'll have Kennington respond to it, because Kennington saw it even more close. Kennington, and we can, and here's the beauty of it. We can make a direct comparison between Alabama and Washington last year. At the end of the year, Alabama played Texas early in the year. Kennington, would you say Texas was better or worse at the end of the year?
Better.
Okay. And then Alabama played Michigan at the end of the year. Okay. Which of those teams who fared the best against those two teams? Alabama or Washington?
Washington.
And was it close in a lot of ways? I mean, when you look at not the final score, because I don't think the final score shows the dominance of how we were dominated against Michigan. I think Michigan just we could have won that game, but to me, Michigan, what is that word they use, Kennington? Controlled the game. Like, you felt like Michigan was a better team, even though Alabama still could have won. And I hate that's hard for me to say that as an Alabama player and former player and fan. But from the start of that game to the end of the game, and did that Michigan game remind you a lot of the Texas A&M game? It looked like the same dominance, the same problems, same issues we had early in the year?
Yeah. It was really a carbon copy of the Texas game in a way of just like the way it was really just a line of scrimmage, honestly. Like, that's really where you saw the difference in the game of Michigan. You talk about controlling a game, you control the game at the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of where you saw that difference play out. So that's the parallel that I would draw between those two games.
So, Pat, Are you saying, I'm gonna give you a chance one more time, Pat. Are you saying that DeBoer's system doesn't have discipline?
Saying that DeBoer caught lightning in a bottle, the same as that guy down in Baton Rouge caught lightning in a bottle with a really great quarterback that was developing at the right time. And the school's still out, that's all I'm saying. And if you have a list,
so you're saying that DeBoer is a one-hit wonder. You just put DeBoer in the same category with Orgeron.
Hey, and
wow.
he's going to have to prove it.
Well, I mean, Pat, that's just like Nick Saban had to prove it. What did Nick Saban? I mean, when Nick Saban got hired at LSU, what had he done? Tell me what Nick Saban had done before he got to LSU.
Beat Michigan.
Huh?
He beat Michigan.
In a regular season game once?
Yeah.
All right, Pat, I'm going to let you go on that one, Pat. All right, thanks, Pat. and you know, yeah, that, Kennington, back to you. That's a question. Does this system work? But it's such a misnomer to think that discipline only comes in one variety, and that's militant. And that's not true.
Again, I'll pose the question. Excluding coaches who have won national championships, who has done more than Kalen DeBoer that's actively coaching right now? We're talking about lightning in a bottle. Can we not say the same for Steve Sarkisian and Mike Norvell? They've been coaching in the FBS much longer than Kalen DeBoer. Neither of them have made a national championships, and they just had their first breakout season last year. So what separates those two from Kalen DeBoer if we're talking about one-hit wonders?
Yeah, and let's look at what you call it did. What's the name coached at Washington? He never got Washington over the hump. He coached at USC, and he never got them over the hump. And he's been at Texas, 3 years? Or 2, whatever. I mean, it's just like, wow.
This was his third year at Texas. He went up against his third year at Texas with more resources, more talent on that team, and got beat by DeBoer, who was only in his second year at Washington with less talent.
And to your point, Kennington, let's just look at what's happened on the field. DeBoer against the top names that were supposedly up for the job. He didn't play against Norvell. And who would have taken the Florida State team over any other playoff teams? I know they went 13-0, but name one of the 4 teams that made the playoffs or Georgia that wouldn't have gone wouldn't have gone undefeated in the ACC. Of course, you can't prove that, but do you think any of the teams that played in the playoffs in Georgia would have lost in the ACC this past year?
No.
And do you think Florida State would have gone undefeated in any other conference other than the ACC this past year?
Depends on their schedule in the Big Ten, maybe. Like if they had a Big Ten West schedule, it's like Wisconsin, Iowa, whatever. We're kind of whittling down the conversation a little bit, but
right.
Possibly, but probably not.
Right. But if they had to play Michigan or Ohio State, those two, would they have, do we think that and people don't understand, this is the part people don't understand. This is what's going to be the shocker for Oklahoma and Texas. Don't mean that they're not good enough to play in the SEC and not good enough to win the SEC. But just the number of times you have to get back up week after week. You don't get, the let-offs as much. And people will say, well, the SEC's been down. Well, then the SEC goes to the postseason and they win. So I know what people think about the SEC being down, but until someone knocks the SEC off consistently, I'm still going to take the SEC. I got some questions I need to get to. Let's get to George and Mac, and then I got some questions I want to get to you on the other side. George, you're in with Kennington. What you got?
Few things I wanted to say about discipline. Okay, one thing. How many penalties did we have last year? How many touchdowns did we had waived off because of penalties? And what's a penalty caused by? Lack of discipline. Just because, I mean, that is a true statement and a true data of lack of discipline, penalties. Another thing, you don't have to be a jerk yelling at somebody to have discipline. I was a championship swimmer, and the coaches that I liked the best, I did best for, is the ones that showed me respect, and I was willing to break my neck and do whatever I could to perform for them. Another thing, our spring game, offense looked pretty decent. On a half, the defense looked pretty decent. All that the board had to prepare for that game was basically 1 month. Very few penalties showed a lot of discipline to me. So when I hear this, oh, you got to cuss at somebody and yell. I have to hear those statements, and those were that's what I have to feel and say. What do you think, Martin?
Well, I agree. I'll let Kennington respond. You nailed it, George.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's also just important, just in the context of this conversation where we're talking about the players feeling more free and having more fun, we're talking about music at practice. We're talking about players wearing number 0 for the first time. Like, we're not talking about extended curfews and players being out late and drinking and, like, we're not talking about those type of things. We're talking about just creating a little bit more of a fun atmosphere, more use of social media, and the coaches being able to show their personality a little bit more. Coaches having Twitter accounts and interacting on social media, things that are like normal across the country but haven't been utilized in the same way in Alabama under Saban. Those are the type of things that we're kind of talking about when the players are having a little bit more fun. So I think it's just important to note that. But I do think the penalties was a great point, because when we're talking about the last few years and those type of things and those mistakes that have led to losses, this all kind of led back to the conversation that Martin was talking about of Alabama not being the same as it's been in the past. So I would just tell fans to give DeBoer a chance. Obviously, his way has worked. To Martin's point, and other people have said it, they made it farther than Alabama last year. So I think there's enough proof of concept to give Kalen DeBoer the benefit of the doubt and trust that he knows what he's doing.
And then if you take his record against all of the guys who were competing for him for the job, he won. So, I mean, he beat Oregon. He beat Washington. He beat USC. I mean, he's beat all of the top coaches, the young coaches that he's faced. So, to me, what I love about DeBoer has the young concept, but he's an old soul. And I can't explain that except for I can say it, that to me, I love about what he's done. We'll be back on the other side. We got a couple questions we want to get Kennington's thought on, regarding the transfer portal, and what's happening around, the capstone.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. They drive along McFarland from Airport Road across the river down to Jack Warner. That's a delay-free 7 minutes at this point. On southbound 69 from Middle Area Road to 15th Street, a 10-minute drive there. And just your normal 7 or 8 minutes along 2059 from the 359 interchange out to Skyland Boulevard, with no big problems along the way. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. An inmate who was arrested April the 12th on drug charges in Walker County has died. His family told news partner ABC 3340 they were notified Saturday morning, but have not been told why he was not transported to a hospital. They claim all they were told was he was in a holding cell away from the general jail population.
Just $49.98. Get Klein Tools in-store and online today, because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros.
Keep it locked. into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
Welcome back in to the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. On this Monday edition, we are joined by Kennington Smith III of The Athletic. Kennington, as we get ready to kick off this fourth quarter, got a couple questions for you, man, about the transfer portal and the big news Bama got on the hardwood and on the football field. What are your thoughts about the additions of Aiden Holloway to the basketball team and Graham Nicholson to the football team?
Yeah, I think started with Aiden Holloway. Really like the fit with Alabama. Just him being, for those who were familiar with him in high school, just being, kind of a scoring-minded, shooting type of combo guard. Playing in the Alabama system is going to be a lot more open. I think you'll see his shooting percentages rise, and I think you'll be able to see him develop without the pressures of being just kind of this heralded recruit starting, as a freshman. Presumably, if Mark Sears comes back, he'll kind of slide into that backup point guard spot and be able to play make and provide some open opportunities for others and create for himself. So I really like that fit. Graham Nicholson is a home run for Alabama football. We were talking about losing the all-time leading scorer in college football, and you replace him with the person that beat him for the Lou Groza Award, who made an NCAA record 25 straight field goals last year. We saw how important Will Reichard was last year to the team, and in a lot of cases, kickers can swing games, especially close ones. So kicker was sneakily probably the biggest question mark on the team this year, and solidified that position with, the best kicker in the country was an absolute home run by Kalen DeBoer and staff.
Yeah, I mean, I agree definitely with the Graham Nicholson. That was one of the biggest concerns a lot of Alabama fans had, that I don't know if necessarily got enough coverage is the kicker. Of course, we talk about the offensive line and the defensive backs, but Will Reichard was great for 5 years, and we were a little worried after the spring game. So big get for Bama with with Graham Nicholson and what he can offer up to this Bama football team. And then, of course, Aiden Holloway, man. This is going to be one of those fun things when Bama plays Auburn in basketball, with the reaction from a lot of Auburn fans. But Auburn fans, if you're listening, you have to remember, didn't y'all just take Antonio Kite in the winter portal?
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out there.
We'll take a former McDonald All-American. We'll take that trade, I think. Hey, when you look at what Nate Oates has done at Kennington, do you see any other moves? Him making any other moves on the hardwood?
A lot of it kind of depends on what Sears and Grant Nelson do. But I do think at this point they're prioritizing a rim protector, Cliff Omoyuri from Rutgers, who I got to see play when I was covering Iowa. A really good, really skilled defensive big scheduled to visit this week. And if they can bring him into the fold, this is a pretty complete roster when you think about what you need to win from an experienced talent, defense, scoring, flashing, all of those things. Nate Oates is creating a monster at Alabama. I think fans should be excited about it. So one more spot open in terms of scholarship numbers. I would imagine it would be a defensive-minded big that's going to slide into that spot.
Just a quick follow-up to that. If they get him and Nelson and don't come back, do they go out and try to get two more guys? And if so, do they have anybody in the kind of in the funnel for those guys? And is Chris Parker gone for sure?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about, Chris Parker's gone for sure. Maybe there could be an option to come back. I think that would have to depend on if, Sears and Nelson don't come back, then there will be a roster spot for him to come open. I do think they would backfill, Sears definitely with another point guard. So that's something to watch out for. I know they're going to be kind of circling the waters in terms of looking for another guard. Nelson leaving would open the door for a Chris Parker return. I do think that they could use, a wing to supplement that as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few days. But just my personal opinion, I do feel like Sears and Nelson will come back.
Yeah, and what about Alabama football? Do you think they're gonna? You got any leans on them getting anybody else?
Yeah, well, I think I do think they're going to still target defensive back. I do believe they're at the scholarship limit right now, so somebody's going to have to leave for them to go seek somebody out. So we'll just have to see if anybody exits the portal, and then they'll be able to be aggressive in terms of getting somebody to backfill that. But I do think defensive back is at the top of the list.
And last but not least, do you think any coach out there is rule if I bring a guy in and pay him NIL? Can I get him without him having a scholarship, sort of like Ricky Williams did back in the day when he was a walk-on, even though he had been scholarship at one point?
Yeah, well, that is a thing, and other major programs are doing it across the country. Shameless plug, you can go to theathletic.com and actually read about that. Programs that are using NIL to supplement scholarship funds to kind of get that 86th, 87th, 88th man on the roster. So that definitely is something that is in play.
Tell them where they can find that at again, Kennington.
You can find that story on theathletic.com or the Athletic mobile app. As far as all of my other content is also on theathletic.com or The Athletic on your mobile app.
And you can find them at SkinnyKenny _ on the X. Thanks, Kenny. We appreciate you, man. Roll Tide and have a great day.
Yeah, appreciate y'all for having me. I'll catch y'all next week.
Catch you next week. Man, that was good stuff right there to end the show. We appreciate Kennington. We appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow to keep it rolling right here on a Tuesday edition of the program. We'll talk a little bit more about those transfers. He gave us a little insight on how people use the NIL. That may be a big topic of conversation. We invite you to add to the conversation, and we appreciate you supporting the Martin Houston Show. Thanks for supporting the show. Give some stars if you appreciate what's happening here. Monthly subscriptions coming soon. It'll be an opportunity for you to be locked in even more with Allen Sports with Martin Houston. Remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Roll Tide out there, everybody. We'll catch you on